The old man under my building's overhang, smell of cheap plastic, pale blue eyes, always nodded at 6:12 a.m., tonight, in the rain. He pulled up his sleeve, showing a ring engraved HW and a silver keycard with my company's logo. "What's your real name?" he asked. I gave him the name on my birth certificate. He smiled. "Then you've met your grandfather." He pressed a USB into my hand. "Take this to the 47th floor, tonight." My name is Nora Whitlow. I'm 29, and I'm a lead analyst for Stonebridge Logistics. The clock on the lobby wall, a sterile digital white, read 11:03 p.m. Outside, Grayford City was dissolving. The rain wasn't just falling, it was attacking, driving in hard, diagonal sheets that hammered the plate glass windows of the atrium. It was a noise like constant, high treble static, an invasive sound that scraped at the nerves. Each drop that struck the pavement seemed to shatter, throwing back the warped, greasy light of the street lamps and the red neon of the pharmacy across the street. This was the city's midnight baptism, cold and without mercy, washing the grime into the gutters. My shoulders ached with a dull, persistent throb. I'd just spent 10 hours locked in a sterile conference room on the 34th floor, mainlining lukewarm coffee from a sputtering machine and running an internal audit that felt less like compliance and more like a scavenger hunt. My job, on paper, was to find the numbers that didn't add up. Lately, it felt like my real job was to find them, document them, and then quietly bury them again under a mountain of procedural jargon. I swiped my standard issue ID. The light on the turnstile flashed a permissive, impersonal green. I walked toward the main elevator bank, the sharp click of my heels on the black marble floor echoing too loudly in the cavernous, empty space. The lobby was kept at a precise, chilly temperature, smelling faintly of metal and expensive, citrus-based cleaning chemicals. I pressed the L button. Nothing. The small digital screen above the polished steel doors, usually dark, glowed with 2 words in stark amber: "Out of service. Routine maintenance." Routine, I muttered to the empty lobby. There was nothing routine about a full bank shutdown at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. It was inefficient. Stonebridge Logistics, under the ironclad rule of its CFO, Sloan Calder, abhorred inefficiency. It meant I had to walk the long secondary corridor to the service elevators, the ones by the loading dock, the ones that smelled of industrial floor wax, ozone, and faintly of the damp cardboard from the recycling bins. The service lift deposited me by the heavy steel door of the west side exit, not the grand revolving doors of the main entrance. I pushed the bar, and the door hissed open, releasing the building's climate-controlled air. The city hit me full force. The sound was the first blow, a deafening roar as the wind and rain hammered the concrete overhang. The air was thick, a miasma of wet asphalt, cold diesel fumes from an idling truck down the block, and the sharp, metallic tang of the rain itself. And there he was, huddled against one of the massive concrete support pillars, exactly where he always was. The man who was a fixture, a piece of the building's urban architecture, as permanent and as overlooked as the brass plaque listing the corporate tenants. He was wrapped in a black plastic poncho that looked more like a heavy-duty trash bag, its hood pulled low. I saw him every morning at 6:12 a.m. when I arrived for my early shift. He would look up as I passed, his face obscured by shadow and grime, and give a short, sharp nod. I would nod back. It was our ritual, a silent, 2-second acknowledgement of shared existence in the same cold corner of the world. Tonight, he looked soaked through, worse than usual. The wind whipped the rain sideways, driving it deep under the minimal shelter of the overhang. He was shivering, a violent, uncontrollable tremor that shook his entire frame. His hands, chapped and raw, were tucked deep into his armpits. As I passed, fumbling in my laptop bag for the broken umbrella I always forgot to replace, he spoke. His voice was a low, gravelly rasp, barely audible over the storm. "Gloves. You got gloves? Anything?" I stopped. My hand froze on the umbrella's latch. This was new, in 2 years. He had never spoken. I had never spoken. The nod was the beginning and end of it. Engaging was a line, one you didn't cross in Grayford unless you were prepared for the consequences. But the cold was visceral. I could feel it seeping through the wool of my own coat, chilling my skin. I looked at his hands, tucked away but visible enough to see the cracked red skin. "1 second," I said, my voice sounding too loud. I unzipped the side pocket of my bag. My fingers brushed against a small, paper-wrapped packet. I still had a pair of disposable nitrile gloves from my last visit to the warehouse floor. We called them lab gloves. They were thin, blue, and meant for handling manifests and touch screens. Not for warmth, but they were dry. "This is all I have," I said, pulling them out. The flimsy blue plastic looked pathetic, useless in the dim, watery light. He reached out, his fingers stiff and slow. I had to step closer to him, turning my back to the wind, using my body to block the worst of the sideways spray. I had to peel the compressed gloves apart and help him work his right hand into the first one. His skin was like ice-cold leather. "It's not much," I apologized, feeling suddenly and intensely foolish. "It's dry," he rasped. He flexed his fingers inside the thin blue material. A small, pained movement. He looked up at me then, and for the first time, I really saw his eyes. They weren't the roomy, unfocused, bloodshot eyes I had expected. They were sharp, intelligent, and a startlingly pale, clear blue. I started to pull away, zipping my bag, ready to make the cold, 4-block dash to my apartment. "You work at Stonebridge," he said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. I froze, my umbrella half open. A chill that had nothing to do with the rain slid down my spine, tightening the muscles in my neck. "What?" "Stonebridge Logistics, 34th floor, right? Lead analyst." My heart hammered a frantic, heavy beat against my ribs. I took an involuntary step back, bumping into the concrete pillar. How do you know that?" My voice was tight, breathless. We were alone on the street, but the city suddenly felt crowded, full of unseen watchers. Was he casing the building? Had I been followed? My mind raced through security protocols. "I see you," he said simply, his voice still low, but the gravelly quality was less pronounced. "You come at 6:12 a.m. You leave at 11:03 p.m. on audit nights. You carry the black Toomey bag. Your ID is clipped to the strap. It's tucked in. But the lanyard is blue as analyst." My hand flew to my bag strap. He was right. The ID itself was hidden, but the blue lanyard was visible. I felt a wave of stupid relief, followed immediately by another jolt of unease. He was observant, dangerously so. That's how people survived out here. I told myself. They watched. They learned patterns. But this felt different. It didn't feel like survival. It felt like surveillance. Before I could form a reply, before I could decide whether to be scared or impressed, a new light cut through the rain. Across the street, parked in a no-standing zone right by the fire hydrant, a black Lincoln Navigator idled. Its engine was a low, predatory rumble, barely audible over the storm, but felt as a vibration in the pavement. The headlights weren't dimmed. They were on full beam. 2 cones of brilliant, aggressive white light slicing through the downpour. They were aimed directly at the overhang, aimed directly at me. I raised a hand to shield my eyes, squinting into the glare. Through the rain-slicked windshield, I could just make out the silhouette of the driver, the severe, perfect blonde bob, recognizable even as a shadow, the sharp, imperious angle of the jaw. Sloane Calder, my stepmother, the chief financial officer of Stonebridge Logistics. She was just sitting there, not 30 feet away, engine running, watching me talk to a homeless man. A hot, suffocating feeling rose in my chest. Was she waiting for me? Had she known I'd be leaving this late? The maintenance on the elevator. It wasn't maintenance. It was a delay. It was a herding tactic, forcing me out this specific door, at this specific time. My skin crawled. She didn't wave. She didn't flash her lights or honk. She just watched, a queen observing her territory from the armored glass of her chariot, her gaze a physical weight. The old man saw me staring. He glanced at the SUV, a quick, practiced movement, and then his gaze snapped back to me. The pale blue eyes were suddenly hard, like chips of ice. All frailty vanished from them. "It's time," he whispered, and there was a new, shocking urgency in his voice. "What? Time for what?" I was rattled. My attention split, pinioned between the dangerous woman in the car and the strange man in front of me. "She's early," he muttered, more to himself than to me. He moved with a speed that completely belied his frail, shivering appearance. He grabbed my wrist. His grip, even through the sleeve of my wool coat, was like a steel clamp. "Hey!" I tried to pull back, a jolt of real fear finally cutting through my confusion. "Don't," he commanded. He fumbled inside his wet poncho with his other, nitrile-gloved hand. He pulled out something small and metallic. He held it up, steady despite the shivering. It was a keycard, not the standard blue plastic I carried, or the red plastic of the executives. This was platinum-colored, made of heavy, brushed metal. It looked expensive and lethal. In the dim light, I could read the laser-etched engraving. SBL 47, Stonebridge Logistics, Floor 47. My blood went cold. "What? Where did you get that?" The 47th floor wasn't just executive. It was the C-suite. It was the boardroom. It was the catalyst room. A glass-walled conference space suspended between the 46th and 47th floors. A place I had only ever seen in promotional materials. It was a place I had never been. "She thinks I'm dead," the old man said. His voice was changing, shedding its raspy, broken quality, becoming clearer, sharper, layered with an authority I hadn't heard in years. Or worse, incompetent. He let go of my wrist and, with a deliberate, almost theatrical gesture, he pushed up the sleeve of his filthy, soaked jacket. The rain was cold, but my veins felt like they were filled with slush. There, on his forearm, stark white against the grime and chapped skin, was a long, jagged scar, puckered and old, a scar I knew, a scar from a broken boom on a sailboat, an accident that happened when my father was just a boy, a story my father had told me a dozen times, always ending with a laugh about his father's stubbornness. And on his ring finger, fitting loosely on the emaciated, bony knuckle, was a heavy gold signet ring. It was dull with grime, but the engraving was deep, unmistakable, catching a stray gleam from Sloane's headlights. A stylized H and W intertwined. Harlan Whitlow. My grandfather, the founder and true owner of Stonebridge Logistics, the man who had walked out of a family dinner 7 years ago and vanished. The man Sloane had spent a fortune in legal fees to have declared incapacitated, his massive shareholdings protected, in a blind trust that she, as CFO and grieving daughter-in-law, ultimately controlled. The word died in my throat. I couldn't breathe. The rain, the headlights, the impossible reality of the man in front of me, it all converged into a single, silent, suffocating point. "Grandpa?" The word was a puff of air, instantly stolen by the wind. He nodded, his face grim, carved by shadows. The pale blue eyes were his eyes, my father's eyes, my eyes. How had I never seen it? I saw him every day. I had looked at him, but I had never seen him. I had seen a nameless, homeless man, a piece of the scenery. He reached inside his poncho again, his movements quick and precise. "She's watching. We have no time." He pressed something small, hard, and cold into my palm. My fingers closed around it automatically. A USB drive. It was matte black, solid feeling, with a small white label affixed to it. One word, typed in a simple, sans serif font. Catalyst. "I can't go up there," he said, his voice dropping back into that urgent, commanding whisper. "The biometrics are tied to her and the board, but that card—" He tapped the platinum card he was now pressing into my hand along with the USB drive. "That's a master override. It only works on the 47th floor. It only works for the next 20 minutes. It opens the room and the system. Across the street, the navigator's door opened. A long leg and a sleek stiletto-heeled boot emerged. Sloane was getting out. "Go," he hissed, giving me a hard shove toward the service door I'd just exited. "Do not call anyone. Do not go home. Go to the catalyst room. Use the service elevator. Act like you forgot something. Act like you never saw me here." "Grandpa, wait." I was reeling, my mind completely fractured, unable to process the 7 years of grief, mystery, and corporate maneuvering collapsing in a single, rain-soaked, impossible instant. "There's no time. Nora!" he snapped, and the authority in his voice, the voice of the man who built a global empire from 2 delivery trucks and a rented garage, cut through my shock like a diamond. "Go, now!" He turned, pulling his trash bag poncho tight, and began to shuffle away, faster than I thought possible, melting back into the shadows of the adjacent alley just as Sloane Calder stepped onto the curb, her own umbrella snapping open like a black, predatory wing. My hand was shaking, clutching the cold metal of the card and the hard plastic of the drive. I could feel Sloane's eyes on my back, a physical pressure. I didn't look back. I turned, jammed my code into the service door keypad with a numb finger, and disappeared back inside the sterile, silent lobby of Stonebridge Logistics. The heavy door clicked shut behind me, sealing out the storm and sealing me in with the impossible, terrifying truth. My name is Nora Whitlow. I'm 29, and I'm a lead analyst for Stonebridge Logistics. I'm standing inside the service entrance, my back pressed against the cold steel door. The heavy lock clicked shut with a dead, final sound, sealing out the roaring storm and the impossible man I just left on the pavement. The air in this corridor is the air of the entire building, sterile, dry, and smelling faintly of industrial floor polish and ozone. It's the smell of Stonebridge. From the outside, our headquarters is an obsidian shard, a monument of black, reflective glass that pierces the Grayford skyline. It was designed to look like polished ivory, a tusk of commerce. Our corporate slogan, etched into the massive black marble wall of the main lobby, is "Transparency in Motion." It's a beautiful, hollow, suffocating joke, I should know. I'm one of the people who helps keep it opaque. My heart is hammering against my ribs, a trapped bird in a small cage. In my right hand, clenched so tight my knuckles are white, are the 2 items he gave me. The platinum keycard feels heavy, its edges lethally sharp and cold. The USB drive is matte black plastic, slick against my palm. A small white label on it reads, "Catalyst." I slide them both deep into the pocket of my wool coat, my fingers brushing against the flimsy paper-wrapped packet of the nitrile gloves I'd given him. Given Harlan, my grandfather, who is not dead, who is not insane, not sunning himself in the Caymans after a psychotic break, not a tragic family ghost story. He's been here, yards from my office, yards from the bronze statue of himself in the main lobby, sleeping under an overhang and watching. And Sloane, in her armored Lincoln Navigator, knew he was there. The realization hits me with the force of a physical blow. She wasn't just checking on her late-night analyst. She wasn't waiting to offer me a ride. She was monitoring a threat. She was watching me, watching him. Sloane Calder, my stepmother, the Wonder Woman of Wall Street, as one fawning business periodical called her last month, to the public, she is the financial goddess of the supply chain industry, a charismatic blonde visionary in tailored white Armani suits, the woman who brilliantly saved Stonebridge from ruin after the tragic disappearance of its founder and the untimely death of his son. In the boardroom, she's a scalpel, cold, precise, and bloodless. My father was a good man, a soft man. He was the logistics side of the company. My grandfather was the Stonebridge, the unshakable foundation. When my father died, a sudden, shocking arrhythmia at 45, he left a vacuum. Sloane, his second wife of barely 3 years, A brilliant and ferociously ambitious VP from a rival firm he'd fallen for, stepped into it. She didn't just fill the void, she became the structure. When Grandpa Harlan, devastated by the loss of his only son, began to question her rapid consolidation of power, he suddenly became erratic. When he tried to block her appointment as permanent chief financial officer, he became unstable. Then, 7 years ago, after a bitter argument at a family dinner I was too young and stupid to understand, he walked out and vanished. The narrative Sloan crafted was a masterpiece of corporate public relations and personal tragedy. Harlan, broken by grief, had simply lost his mind. He was a danger to himself and the company. His assets, his 51% controlling stake, were frozen in the Whitlow Trust, a complex legal fortress she managed for his protection and well-being. And me? I was the loose end, the founder's granddaughter, the dead heir's only child. Sloan couldn't get rid of me. It would look too suspicious. So she gave me a place, not in management, not in strategy, but here, on the 34th floor, the gray area. I'm a lead analyst. My real job title should be data launderer. I'm paid a salary that's just high enough to be silencing, just enough to make me complicit in the theft of my own inheritance. I don't move money. I just clean it. I find the discrepancies in the quarterly reports, the shipping manifests that don't match the invoices, the fuel surcharges that seem to evaporate into anonymous shell companies, and I reconcile them. I make the dirty data beautiful. I make the lies look like transparency in motion. My feet, acting on their own, carry me automatically to the service elevator bank. The polished steel doors reflect a distorted, pale version of me. My hair is damp from the rain. My eyes wide and dark. I look haunted. I am haunted. The platinum card feels like it's burning a hole in my pocket. SBL 47. Floor 47. The nerve center. The home of the Catalyst Room. The Catalyst Room is Sloan's masterpiece. It's not even a room. Really, it's a box. A $10,000 a square foot glass box suspended in the 2-story atrium between the 46th and 47th floors, accessible only by a private sky bridge. It's where the real power sits. It's where Sloan holds her most sensitive meetings. It's where she corrects me. Twice a quarter, like clockwork, I'm summoned. I stand on that reinforced glass floor, feeling like I'm floating, while the whole of Grayford glitters like a field of diamonds below. And Sloan, always calm, always smelling faintly of jasmine and victory, will point to a line item on the holographic display. Nora, she'll say, her voice never rising above a cultured, disappointed murmur. This expenditure line for the Whitlow Trust Relief Fund, it seems unoptimized. Unoptimized is her word for flagged by the system as fraudulent. Whitlow Trust Relief is her pet NGO, a philanthropic fund set up in my grandfather's name to provide emergency disaster logistics. It's also a black hole. Millions go in, nothing comes out. And my job is to make sure the algorithm that's supposed to catch fraud doesn't. Which brings me to last night. The memory is so fresh it's still bleeding. It was just after 9 p.m. I was alone in my office, running the final reconciliation for the quarter-end report. A new line item appeared, pushed through with a high-priority, CFO-level flag, a single wire transfer, $4.8 million. Destination: NGO Partners, LLC, an entity I had never heard of. Reason: emergency logistics, immediate deployment. The system's automated checks didn't just flag it, they screamed. The receiving entity was registered in Delaware 3 days ago. It had no history, no assets, no public footprint. It was a ghost. This was different. This wasn't the usual, subtle, $10,000 skimming from the relief fund. This was blatant. This was sloppy. This was arrogant. My finger hovered over the approve button. It was my digital signature, my analyst ID, that was required for the transfer. The final key. She was making me turn it. I did something I had never done before. I picked up my desk phone and dialed her private extension. She answered on the first ring, Nora? Not a question. Sloan, I said, my voice tight. I have the 4.8 million transfer on my screen. I can't approve this. Excuse me? Her voice was perfectly flat, perfectly cold. There's no documentation, no bill of lading, no needs assessment, no carrier contract. The recipient? Sloan. It's a shell company. It was created this week. There was a silence on the line. A heavy, pressurized pause that seemed to suck the air out of my office. When she spoke, the manufactured warmth was gone. It's emergency aid. Nora, the documentation is retroactive. The assets are already in motion. Sign it. I can't. The compliance protocols. You, she interrupted, and the single word was like a slap, are not in compliance. You are in analytics. Your job is to analyze the data I provide and ensure it is presented correctly. This is a simple transaction. It's too late in the quarter for complications. Do not make this a problem for me or for you. I need the manifests, Sloan, or I'll have to flag it for internal audit. The laugh that came through the receiver was not a human sound. It was a small, sharp exhalation of pure contempt. It's too late. Nora, it's too late. There is no audit. There is only you and that button. Sign it, now. She hung up. I sat there for 10 minutes, the dial tone buzzing in my ear. My stomach was in knots. I felt sick. This wasn't just skimming anymore. This was grand theft, on a massive scale. I didn't sign. Instead, I took the only route of defiance I had. I couldn't initiate an audit of her, but I could flag my own department's inability to reconcile the number. I opened the internal compliance portal, cited the $4.8 million discrepancy, and formally requested an internal audit to review the unverified expenditure. I hit send. It was a small, cowardly rebellion, a cry for help disguised as paperwork. I went home. I didn't sleep. This morning, when I arrived at 6:12 a.m. and gave my habitual nod to the man under the overhang, an email was waiting in my inbox. It was not from Sloan. It was from an anonymous, encrypted internal address, the kind IT uses for system-wide alerts, an address that cannot be traced or replied to. The subject line was blank. The body contained a single sentence. Stop digging if you want to keep working at Stonebridge. Not if you want to keep your job. If you want to keep working at Stonebridge. It wasn't a threat of being fired. It was a threat of being removed. I've been living with that email lodged in my throat all day. I've been sitting in that sterile audit room for 10 hours, pretending to look for the very thing I was just warned to ignore. I was trapped. I was a well-paid prisoner in a glass tower, and the only family I had left was the one holding the keys. Until tonight. The service elevator dings, its doors sliding open with a smooth hydraulic hiss. I step inside the small, steel-walled box. Everything I believed about my life, the tragedy of my father's death, the sad, insane disappearance of my grandfather, my own quiet, compromised role in the family legacy, it's all been a lie, a carefully constructed 7-year lie. Sloan didn't just take the company, she stole it. She stole it from a man who wasn't dead, a man she's been paying security to keep away from me. My grandfather's words from 20 minutes ago ring in my ears, cutting through the fog of my confusion. She thinks I'm dead, or worse, incompetent. Take this to the 47th floor, tonight. The man in the rain didn't just give me a keycard and a USB drive. He gave me a spine. He gave me the truth, and he gave me a target. My hand tightens around the platinum card in my pocket. The elevator doors close, sealing me in. I don't press the button for my office on 34. I don't press the button for the lobby. I look at the control panel. The 47 button is dark, disabled, requiring a keycard swipe even inside the elevator. I pull out the platinum card. SBL 47. I swipe it through the reader. There's a soft beep. The light on the reader turns green. The button for 47 illuminates, a brilliant, permissive white. I press it. The elevator begins to climb. The service elevator climbs, a silent, antiseptic steel box. The small digital display above the door marks our ascent, the numbers flipping with a cold, digital click. My floor. The floor of the gray area. My mind is not in the elevator. It's back on the street, in the rain, replaying the last 7 years, but through a new, terrifyingly clear lens. The man I called the old man, the one I saw every single day, was my grandfather, Harlan Whitlow, and the clues were everywhere. I was just too blind, too busy, too compromised to see them. Tap, tap, tap. The elevator mechanism jolts slightly, a rhythmic sound as it passes a switching station. The sound echoes in my memory. He had a stick, a piece of gnarled, smoothed-down wood he used as a cane, this morning. At 6:12 a.m., he'd given me his usual nod. I'd been preoccupied, stressed about the audit, and I almost missed it. He'd tap the stick on the concrete. Tap, 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 a sharp, deliberate cadence. My breath catches. I'm suddenly 14 again, sitting in my grandfather's vast, mahogany-paneled study. He's in his high-backed leather chair, a copy of The Economist in his lap. He's explaining why a single container ship stuck in the Suez Canal could disrupt the entire global economy. You have to see the choke points. Nora, he'd said. And to emphasize the point, he'd wrapped his polished walnut cane on the hardwood floor. Tap, tap, tap. This is where the leverage is. This is what matters. It wasn't a nervous tick. It was a signal. It was his signal, and he'd been doing it right in front of me. The elevator continues its relentless, silent climb. I think of his spot, the concrete pillar by the west side entrance. I always thought he chose it because it was the deepest part of the overhang, offering the most shelter from the wind. A simple, logical choice for survival. But I've been in my own apartment building's security office. I've seen the monitors. Every building has them. And Stonebridge has the best. I can picture the camera feed for that entrance now. A wide-angle shot from a high-mounted camera, and I realize, with a sudden, sickening jolt, where his pillar is. It's in the seam. The one place where the fields of view from camera 1 and camera 2 are supposed to overlap but don't, leaving a perfect, man-sized sliver of shadow, a technical blind spot. He wasn't sheltering from the rain. He was hiding from the cameras. He knew the building's security layout. My grandfather designed the building. Sloane's SUV idling across the street tonight. She wasn't just watching me. She was watching him, or having him watched, and he, in turn, was hiding from her surveillance, in the one place she couldn't digitally see. I remember another fragment. From a sunny afternoon in late spring, I'd been grabbing a coffee. He wasn't in his usual spot, but sitting on a flattened appliance box, his back to the wall, reading, not a discarded tabloid, but a thick, crumpled section of the Wall Street Journal. It was weeks old. I'd walked close enough to see he wasn't just reading. He had a small nub of a pencil, and he was making check marks. I'd smiled to myself. A small, sad smile. A homeless man playing at being a tycoon. But I'd seen the columns he was marking. My job is analytics. I live in data. I notice details. He wasn't looking at the front page stocks. His pencil marks were deep in the commodities and transport section. He was circling items about bulk carrier futures, new regulations on bills of lading, and a dense article on demurrage fees, the penalty for container backlogs at ports. These are not sexy topics. They are the deep, complex, unglamorous guts of logistics. They were my grandfather's singular obsession. The money isn't in the cargo. Nora, he used to tell me, ruffling my hair. It's in the waiting. It's in the penalties. It's in the data everyone else is too lazy to read. I had dismissed it as a tragic pantomime. It was homework. The memory that hits me the hardest is the tape. About 3 weeks ago, during a miserable, freezing drizzle, I was fumbling with my phone. The charging cable was frayed at the connector, a common annoyance. I was trying to wrap a piece of failing Scotch tape around it. He'd watched me for a moment. "That won't hold," he'd rasped, his voice rough from the cold. He'd reached into the deep pocket of his filthy coat and pulled out a small roll of tape. It was thick, glossy, and a specific, industrial shade of blue. "For your cable," he'd said. "Sky's about to open up." I'd taken it, surprised. "Thank you, that's really high-quality tape." "Waterproof," he'd grunted. "Good adhesive." I'd taped my cable and forgotten about it. Until last week, I was down in Warehouse 4 running a physical inventory reconciliation on a high-value pharmaceutical shipment. The containers were being sealed by the warehouse foreman. He was using a tape gun, and the tape was the exact same. Thick, glossy, industrial blue. It wasn't a common brand. I'd never seen it before. "New stuff," the foreman had grumbled when I'd asked. "CFO's orders. Came directly from her office, not procurement. Some exclusive German brand for cold storage integrity. Costs a fortune. We're only to use it on C-suite flagged items." My blood went cold then, and it's turning to ice now. He didn't find that tape in a trash can. He had access to it. He had access to the most secure, high-value, exclusive supplies inside Stonebridge. He wasn't just a man on the street. He was a ghost in the machine. The elevator passes the last executive floor, through the small, reinforced glass window in the door. I can see the atrium opening up, and the dark, suspended glass box of the catalyst room floating in the void. I remember his words tonight, the ones that snapped everything into focus. "You come at 6:12 a.m., you leave at 11:03 p.m. on audit nights." He wasn't just seeing me, he was clocking me. He was building a timeline. He was correlating my movements, my late nights, the audit nights, the nights when Sloan was pushing through her most aggressive, fraudulent transactions, the nights, like last night, when she demanded I sign off on a $4.8 million ghost transfer. He wasn't just observing me, he was vetting me. He was waiting to see if I was one of them, a willing, comfortable, complicit part of Sloan's machine, or if I was still, in any meaningful way, a Whitlow. And last night, I'd finally done something. I'd refused to sign. I'd triggered the internal audit. I'd sent up a flare, a final, desperate act of defiance. And he saw it. The anonymous warning email this morning wasn't from Sloan. It was a test, or maybe Sloan's warning was real. And my grandfather saw my reaction to it. He saw me come to work anyway. He saw me go to the audit. I remember him staring up at the massive, glowing Stonebridge logo on the top of the tower one evening, his hood low. He'd muttered something, so low I thought I'd misheard it. Transparency in motion. Interesting, the dry, bitter, profound irony of the man who wrote the words, watching them be turned into a lie. Ding. The elevator stops. The sound is loud, final, echoing in the small space. The doors slide open. The number 47 glows, steady and white. All those pieces, the blind spot, the 3 taps, the Wall Street Journal, the cold storage tape, the timeline, they weren't just signs I missed. They were a 7-year job interview. Tonight, when he showed me that ring, the HW that I used to trace with my finger as a child, and that impossible platinum card, it was the final act. The pieces didn't just fall into place, they assembled themselves into a weapon. My grandfather wasn't lost. He wasn't incapacitated. He was in deep cover. He was watching his fortress, waiting for a soldier on the inside. My refusal to sign Sloan's transfer was the signal. I had been chosen. The doors open onto a corridor of absolute, oppressive silence. The carpet is so thick it absorbs all sound. The walls are paneled in dark, polished teak. The air smells different up here, faintly of leather, old money, and power. There are no desks, no offices, just a single, frosted glass door at the end of the hall. And beyond it, the glass sky bridge leading to the catalyst room. I'm on the 47th floor. The silence is different here. It's not just the absence of sound. It's the presence of insulation. The teak-paneled walls and inch-thick carpet absorb everything, even the sound of my own breathing. This corridor is a vacuum, a place designed to protect the conversations that happen here. At the end of the hall is a frosted glass door, and beyond it, the glass sky bridge that leads to the catalyst room. But to the left, there's a small, C-suite waiting alcove, a single, severe leather couch and a glass table. It's out of sight of the elevator. It's secure. I don't proceed. I sit on the edge of that unforgiving couch. I pull my personal laptop from my Toomey bag, my old college laptop, the one I keep air-gapped, the one that has never once touched the Stonebridge network, my paranoid firewall. I boot it up. The first thing I do is manually disable the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth hardware. No connections, no digital traces. Only then, in this sterile electronic bubble, do I slide the black USB drive into the port. It mounts instantly, no malware, no complex decryption, just a single, clean drive labeled Catalyst, and inside it, one folder. Yard 47. My fingers are cold, but steady. I click it open. It's not a chaotic dump of files. It's a clean room. It's an audit, laid out with surgical precision. There are 5 subfolders and 2 single files. My analyst instincts take over. I go to the data first. I open the transaction logs Q4 folder. It's a series of encrypted spreadsheets, but the encryption key is the folder name, Yard 47. I type it in. The files open. It's the raw back-end data from the Whitlow Trust Relief Fund. My fund, the one I'm forced to reconcile. But this isn't the clean version I see on my terminal. This is the source code. I see every transfer, every routing number, every IP address that approved it. Then I open the SBL Manifests Q4 folder, bills of lading, container codes, shipping routes. I put the 2 windows side by side. My heart isn't pounding. It's beating with a cold, heavy, rhythmic force. I start running a cross-reference. The container codes on the manifests, ships marked for humanitarian aid Jakarta, are a perfect one-to-one match for the invoice numbers in the transaction logs. The $4.8 million Partners LLC transfer I refused to sign last night, it's here, listed as Transfer 904B, and the corresponding manifest is for container SBL 904B. Sloan isn't sending aid. She's billing for it. She's moving ghost containers on paper, attaching them to her phantom NGO, and wiring herself the shipping and logistics fees directly from my grandfather's trust. She isn't just skimming. She's gutting the company from the inside out, using the very logistics network he built as the weapon. My hands are moving fast now, clicking, opening, connecting. I open the surveillance folder, one file, Doc 14 2200 HRs, MP4. I double-click. There's no audio for the first 30 seconds. The video is grainy, shot from a high angle, fixed position, a security camera on a loading crane. It's timestamped 2 nights ago, 10:12 p.m. I see Stonebridge Yard 14. I see the rain. And I see a black Lincoln Navigator pull up to the dock, its headlights cutting through the dark. Sloan gets out. She's in a black trench coat, her blonde hair pulled back. She's impatient. A man in a high-visibility jacket, his face obscured by a ball cap, joins her. The audio crackles to life, filtered, but clear. The man. The manifest is clean. It's logged as pharmaceuticals, ready for allocation. Sloan's voice, not her boardroom voice. This one is sharp, hurried, and raw. It's time for the allocation. Forget the cargo. Just make the transfer. I want it cleared by morning. The video cuts. I close the file, my breath held tight in my chest. Allocation, the same word my grandfather's voice on the audio file used. Time for the allocation. I move to the next file, Legal Master, PDF. I open it. It's not a copy. It's a high-resolution scan of an original, executed document. Deed of Trust, Whitlow Holdings. My eyes fly past the dense legalese, straight to the signature pages and the beneficiary clauses. There it is, Harlan Whitlow, 51% controlling stake. The shares are held in the trust, to be managed by the board in his absence, but the trust only grants the board, and by proxy, Sloan, its executor, Full control if the primary beneficiary is declared legally incapacitated. And the clause for incapacitation is ironclad. It requires the signed, notarized agreement of 3 independent, board-certified neurologists. My grandfather wasn't just a logistics genius, he was a paranoid one. My eyes dart to the last folder. Voicemail extract. 1 file inside. Sloan Latham VM, M4A. I don't have earbuds. I don't care. I play it. Keeping the volume so low I have to press my ear to the speaker. It's Sloan's voice, but it's a version I've never heard. It's not cold. It's not in command. It's a furious, ragged whisper, vibrating with sheer panic. David? David, it's Sloan. It's been 6 months. I've paid the retainer. I need the 3rd signature. Dr. Aris signed. Dr. Beale signed. I need the 3rd one. Erratic behavior isn't enough. I need incapacitated. Find a doctor who will sign it. I don't care what it costs. Just get it done, or the entire trust defaults back to him in January when the 7-year clause expires. Get it done. A click, the voicemail ends. She never got it. She never got the 3rd signature. 7 years, and she failed. He is not legally incapacitated. He is still, on paper, in control of 51% of Stonebridge Logistics. Sloan is a regent who has been ruling without a crown, and the king is not dead. A cold, sharp clarity washes over me. This USB, it's not a collection of clues. It's not an investigation. It's an execution protocol. My grandfather hasn't built a case to be argued in court. There will be no lawyers, no motions, no discovery. He has built a data trap, a sequence of absolute, irrefutable, digital facts. He's not going to accuse Sloan. He's going to show the data on the C-suite's main screen, with the heads of compliance and PR on a recorded, locked-in line. It is the most efficient, ruthless, and logical form of corporate execution I have ever seen. It's pure Harlan Whitlow. I finally look at the last file, the one I skipped. Read me, taxed. I click it. It's not a letter, it's a checklist. 1. 11:30 p.m. Enter Catalyst 47. Use Platinum card. 2. Lock door from internal console. Protocol, lockdown 0. 3. Connect drive to Catalyst core. 4. Call head of compliance, secure line 8800. 5. Call head of PR, secure line 8801. 6. Initiate protocol Whitlow from core. I glance at the clock in the corner of my laptop's screen. 11:28 p.m. He knew my audit night schedule. He knew I'd be here. He knew Sloan was watching. He knew, tonight, I would finally be pushed to the edge. I shut the laptop. I don't just close the lid. I power it completely down. I slide it back into my Toomey bag, the USB drive now zipped into an internal pocket. I stand up. I walk to the frosted glass door that separates the corridor from the sky bridge. The platinum card is in my hand. It's not just a key, it's a scalpel. I swipe it. The black panel next to the door flashes a quiet, respectful green. There is no beep, just a soft, solid thwump as the heavy magnetic lock disengages. The door glides open, rolling back into the wall like the lid of a dark, futuristic box. The sky bridge is a tube of glass, suspended 47 stories above the wet, glittering streets of Grayford. The city lights spread out below me, a map of power. At the far end, the catalyst room itself waits, a dark, silent cube of glass. As I step onto the bridge, I catch my reflection in the thick, floor-to-ceiling glass to my right. The harsh, recessed spotlight from the corridor above illuminates my face. And I see it, a faint, yellowish-green shadow, high on my left cheekbone, almost hidden by the hairline. It's 2 weeks old. The memory is sharp, sterile, and humiliating. A budget strategy meeting. I had questioned a consulting fee that seemed to have no consultant. Sloan had waited until the VPs left the room. She'd gripped my arm, her fingers digging in. "Don't you ever question me in front of them, Nora," she'd hissed. her face inches from mine. When I flinched, her other hand came up, her fingers gripping my jaw, her thumb pressing into the bone just below my eye. A gesture of ownership. Your family. Show some loyalty. I'd carried that bruise, that small, physical proof of my own cowardice, for 2 weeks, hiding it with concealer. Looking at my reflection now, at that faint, fading mark of her loyalty, I feel the last shred of hesitation burn away. This isn't just for my grandfather. This isn't just for the company. This is for me. I walk across the bridge. The door to the catalyst room slides open as I approach. I step inside, and the door seals shut behind me with the sound of a vault closing. I'm inside. The door to the catalyst room seals behind me with a soft, pressurized thump, the sound of a tomb closing. For a moment, there is absolute, deafening silence. 47 stories above the city. The room is dark, dormant. The only light is the faint, ambient glow of the Grayford skyline, visible through the vast, floor-to-ceiling glass walls. In the center of the room is a single, massive, black mirror-polished table. At its head is the core console, a slab of black glass, currently dark. I walk to it, my hand, steady, hovers over the blank screen. I place the platinum card on the induction reader. The room wakes up. With a low electric whir, the console lights up, revealing a complex, minimalist interface. A single, illuminated button reads, Initiate, Catalyst Protocol. I press it. Instantly, 2 things happen. First, a heavy, definitive thwump echoes from the door I just entered. A solid red line appears on the door's internal frame. Lockdown 0. No one gets in or out without the MasterCard. Second, the glass walls begin to change. A soft, electric hum fills the air as the electrochromic glass activates. The view of the city doesn't just frost over, it opacifies, turning a militant, 70% gray. The glittering lights of Grayford are snuffed out, replaced by a cold, shadowless neutrality. The room is no longer a window to the world, it is an interrogation box. The recessed lighting in the ceiling brightens from a warm ambient to a sharp, clinical white. The room is now active, the trap is set. The massive, wall-sized conference screen at the far end of the room flickers to life. No corporate logo, no welcome screen, just a direct, encrypted video feed. The connection stabilizes, and I'm staring at him. It's my grandfather, but it's not the broken man from the overhang, and it's not the polished CEO from my childhood. This is a third man, a man I've never met. His hair and beard are long, silver white, and unkempt, but his face is clean. He's wearing a simple, dark thermal shirt. He's sitting in what looks like the cab of an old truck, a meticulously organized array of electronics and antennae visible over his shoulder. It's not a home, it's a mobile command center. But his eyes, they are the same pale, clear blue I saw tonight, but now they are magnified, sharp, and utterly, terrifyingly lucid. They are the eyes of a man who has been sleeping with one eye open for 7 years. A metallic voice, his voice, fills the room. Nora, can you hear me? I don't answer. I'm frozen, processing the man on the screen. He seems to understand. It's me, he says. He raises his right hand to the camera. On his finger is the 8W signet ring, the gold now gleaming under a small task light in his truck. Then, with his other hand, he holds up a second platinum SBL 47 card, identical to the one in my pocket. I had 2 made, the day the building opened. Sloan only ever knew about 1. That's what breaks the spell. The logistics, the planning. I hear you, I say. My voice sounds hollow, too small for the room. Good, he says, his tone all business. He doesn't smile. There's no time for a tearful reunion. This is not a family call. It's a briefing. 7 years ago, he begins, his voice rapid, clipped. I walked out of that family dinner. Sloan had just presented her plan to put the Whitlow Trust under her sole management, to protect me from my grief over your father. She smiled while she served me brandy and explained how she was going to legally castrate me. He leans forward, his eyes burning into the camera, into me. So I left. I let her think I'd broken. I let her start the rumors. Harlan's gone mad. Harlan's lost it. I needed to see how far she would go. I needed to test the board. I needed to test you. A cold spike of anger, not grief, hits me. You've been watching me. Every day, he confirms, without a flicker of apology. You were the last variable. Nora, Sloan knew it. That's why she kept you close. In your data laundering job. She was poisoning you with a high salary, making you complicit, turning you into her. He gestures, and a new window pops up on the main screen. It's a bank transfer receipt. A recurring weekly payment of $500 from a shell corporation I recognize, one tied to Sloan's NGO, to Grayford Private Security. She paid the security at your apartment building, Harlan says, his voice a low growl. The memo was always the same. Vagrant removal. W. Tower. Every night you worked late, like tonight. She had them sweep the block. She wasn't just watching me, Nora. She was actively hunting me. She was trying to keep us apart. She knew if we ever spoke, the game was over. I stare at the receipt, the dates, the casual, corporate cruelty of it. The faint bruise on my cheekbone, the one from her hand, begins to throb. The USB, I say, cutting him off. The files are definitive. They are, he says. My files, my data, but I'm locked out. I'm a ghost on the street. I built the vault, so I know every weakness. But I can't walk in the front door. The core system, the one you're plugged into, requires an active, high-level analyst ID and a C-suite keycard to make the kind of changes we need to make. Sloan's biometrics are on everything. Mine are expired. He leans in again. I can't unlock the evidence from out here. You can. You are the key. Nora, you are the catalyst. I look at the console. I look at the man who sacrificed 7 years of his life, who slept in the rain and ate garbage. All for this one. Perfect, brutal move. I nod. Once? All right, I say. The word is sharp, hard. I'll do it. He starts to say something. Nora, But I have one condition, I interrupt. He stops. He waits. We finish this tonight, I say, and my voice is as cold as the glass walls. We finish this now, in the next 20 minutes. No long, drawn-out legal battle. No SEC investigations that last a year. No headlines tomorrow that Sloan's lawyers are reviewing. We cut the head off. We do it here, now, and we make it final. Or I take this card, I take your USB drive, and I walk out of this building. I meet his gaze on the screen. I am no longer the lead analyst. I am no longer the grieving granddaughter. I am the only other Whitlow in the room. For the first time, a small, hard smile touches the corner of Harlan Whitlow's mouth. He doesn't say, I agree. He doesn't say thank you. He reaches just out of frame and picks up his gnarled wooden cane. He lifts it and taps the metal dashboard of his truck. Tap, tap, tap. The sound is sharp, percussive, final. It's the gavel. Begin, he says. The main screen instantly changes. His video feed shrinks to a small box in the corner. The main display is now a clean, black interface. In the center, a single file icon appears. Protocol Whitlow, and beneath it, a timer. It starts counting down. 2000, 1959, 1958. My blood turns to ice water. I don't hesitate. I pull my own laptop from my bag, plug it into the console's core interface. I slot the Catalyst USB drive into the console itself. The system recognizes it. The file icon Protocol Whitlow glows. My eyes fly to the console interface, to the secure line directory. I follow the checklist from the README TXT file. My first move, I press the icon labeled Secure Line 8800 Compliance. The line dials. The sound of the ringtone is obscenely loud in the silent room. 1945. A groggy, irritated voice answers. "This is Arthur Vale, head of compliance. Who is this? It's almost midnight." I lean into the microphone. "Mr. Vale, this is Nora Whitlow, lead analyst, ID 904B. I am in the Catalyst 47 conference room. I am initiating an emergency compliance review on a high-priority CFO-level matter, effective immediately." A pause, then Arthur's voice, suddenly wide awake. "Ms. Whitlow, a secure channel review? The system shows you're on a recorded line. Is this a drill?" "This is not a drill. Mr. Vale," I say, as my fingers fly to the next icon. "Hold the line. I am patching in public relations." 1931. The countdown clock on the main screen reads 1928. "This is not a drill. Mr. Vale," I say, my voice cold and procedural, echoing slightly in the sterile room. "I am granting your terminal guest tunnel access to the Catalyst core, effective now." On the console, I tap a key. Grant access. A. Vale. Compliance. "You are now a privileged guest in a locked, recorded session," I state. "You can see my screen. All actions are logged." "Nora, what is this?" Arthur Vale's voice is sharp, losing its sleepy edge. "My screen it's mirroring yours. Is this a security breach? I'm initiating a full system shutdown." "You will do nothing," I counter, my voice hard. "This is a security containment. I am the analyst who flagged the 4.8 million transfer last night. Now look at my screen." My fingers fly. I don't open the video. I don't open the legal documents. I go straight to the data, the language we both understand. "You are looking at the live reconciliation dashboard," I say. "Observe the Whitlow Trust Relief Fund and the NGO Partners LLC file." I execute the first script from Harlan's USB drive. It's not a hack. It's a live verification protocol that pings external databases. On the main screen, and on Arthur Vale's terminal at home, the two file icons, previously green, system verified, flash, they turn a solid, screaming red. A data integrity failure warning appears. What is that?" Vale stammers. "That," I say, "is the sound of the system running a real-time cross-check against the Delaware Secretary of State database. The script just confirmed both entities are registered to a single PITS-O box in Wilmington, and the listed director for both." I click again. A name appears. Kira Jensen. Vale's breath hitches. I can hear it. A sharp, sudden intake of air. That's Sloane's executive assistant." "Ms. Jensen has been busy," I continue, my voice a flat monotone. "She's been allocating millions in emergency aid. Please observe surveillance file, Doc 14 2200 HRs, MP4. I hit play. The grainy, high-angle video from the loading crane fills the main screen. The black navigator. Sloane in her trench coat, her face tight with irritation. The man in the cap. Sloane's filtered voice, sharp and hurried, fills the room. "It's time for the allocation. Forget the cargo. Just make the transfer. I want it cleared by morning." I stop the feed. The screen goes black. The clock reads 17:50. "That was 2 nights ago," I say. "Now, Mr. Vale, watch the logistics data. This is where it gets interesting." I open a new window, a GPS tracking map. This is container SBL 904B. It is linked to the $4.8 million transfer I refused to sign. It was logged as pharmaceuticals bound for Jakarta. The map shows the container's digital path. A red line snakes out from Stonebridge Yard 14, travels 30 miles to a nondescript holding depot, waits for exactly 1 hour, and then snakes 30 miles back to Stonebridge Yard 12, where it was logged as empty returned. "It's a loop," Vale whispers, his voice thick with dawning horror. "The container. It never even went to port." "It's 3 loops, actually," I correct him, running the second algorithm from the USB. The screen flashes, highlighting 3 identical trips over the last 3 weeks, each one perfectly matching the timestamp of a multi-million-dollar disbursement from the trust. Disperse, move, Return, bill, repeat. My God, Vale says. This isn't fraud. This is grand larceny. This is a siphon. Mr. Vale, this is an active, ongoing financial threat to the corporation, I say. The clock is ticking. 16:21. I am now looping in public relations. I tap the console. Secure line 8801, PR. It rings twice. A woman's voice, crisp and alert, even at this hour. Ria Sharma. Ms. Sharma, this is Nora Whitlow in Catalyst 47. You are on a recorded, secure line with compliance. A Class A fiduciary breach has been identified and confirmed. I need a statement drafted immediately.
What? Who? Nora? What are you talking about? I can't.
I dictate, my words sharp as glass, leaving no room for argument. Draft the following, quote, Grayford, 11:45 p.m., Stonebridge Logistics, in accordance with its bylaws, has activated a Class A shareholder protection clause following the discovery of significant financial irregularities. An internal audit has been escalated to a full forensic review. All fiduciary controls have been temporarily rerouted from the CFO's office to the head of compliance and the general counsel, pending an emergency board vote. End quote. How long will that take you, Ms. Sharma? There is a beat of stunned silence. Drafted, Ria says, the shock evident in her voice, but the professionalism winning. I can't release this, not without authorization from the CEO or Sloan. You will release it on my authorization, I state, as soon as the board vote is complete. The clock shows 14:30. Mr. Vale, I say, is the general counsel available? Yes, he's on my emergency call list. I'm patching him now. Nora, this is procedure, I cut him off. A new voice joins the call, heavy, old world, and radiating pure fury. Arthur? What in God's name is this? My entire system is flashing a C-suite lockdown. Who authorized this? David Latham, General Counsel, Vale says, his voice now shaking. Please observe the data packet I'm forwarding to your terminal. Mr. Latham, I say, taking control. This is Nora Whitlow. You are in a locked, recorded session. You are observing evidence of systemic, multi-million-dollar fraud perpetrated by CFO Sloan Calder. Ms. Whitlow, Latham's voice booms. A tidal wave of outrage. You are a junior analyst. You are making an accusation that could destroy this company. You have no authority to lock this floor. You will... I do, I say. Grandpa, now. In the small video window in the corner of my screen, Harlan nods once. He taps a key. On the main screen, a new file appears, uploading directly from his secure remote server to the Catalyst core. Legal Master, PDF. What is this? Latham snaps. That, Mr. Latham, I say, is the original, unamended, Deed of Trust, Whitlow Holdings. Please note the incapacitation clause, Article 4, Section B, the one you are intimately familiar with. My fingers move. I run the audio file. Sloan, Latham, VM, M4A. Sloan's desperate, ragged, furious whisper fills the dead air of the Catalyst room. David? David, it's Sloan. It's been 6 months. I've paid the retainer. I need the third signature. Find a doctor who will sign it. I don't care what it costs. Get it done. The silence that follows is absolute. It is the sound of a man's entire career evaporating. David Latham was the David in the voicemail. You, Latham stammers. You never got the third signature, did you, David? Harlan's voice, metallic, cold, and amplified, booms from the conference speakers for the first time. Who said that? Who is that? Latham shouts. Harlan's video feed maximizes. Replacing the data, he is no longer a small box in the corner. He is a wall-sized image of righteous fury. He holds his signet ring and his platinum card up to the camera. Harlan, Latham breathes. The word is a ghost. The 7-year lapse clause expired in January. David, Harlan says, his voice a low growl. You know what that means. The board's stewardship was temporary. It is now over, and Sloan Calder is no longer an officer of this corporation. A digital certificate file appears next to the deed. Harlan's digital signature, validated, time-stamped. The 51% controlling stake is active. The clock reads 09:12. Nora, Harlan commands. Lock the floor. Call the board. My fingers move. I tap the console. Facility lockdown. Floors 46, 47, 48. The system map confirms. All elevator access to the C-suite is now frozen, except for designated board-level keycards. Mr. Vale, I say. Yes, he says, his voice a strained whisper. Do you have enough to convene an emergency session of the board? My God. Yes, Nora, we have everything. Then convene them, I order. Yes, convening, now. A new sound, not in the room, but outside it, a high, piercing, but distant alarm. The emergency board summons. It's a silent, flashing alert on their phones, but it's a physical siren on the C-suite floors, designed to cut through any meeting. Suddenly, a new window pops up on my personal laptop screen, the one still tethered to the console. It's an internal chat message from Sloan Calder. Sloan, what is that alarm? Sloan, my elevator card isn't working. Sloan, Nora, my security feed shows you're on the 47th floor. It's late. Honey, come down. I stare at the message. Come down. Honey? The condescending, false affection. The faint, 2-week-old bruise high on my cheekbone. The one from her hand. Throbs. I don't reply. I just watch the countdown clock. 06:30. 06:29. Harlan's voice is grim. She's locked out, but she has C-suite physical overrides. She'll be at the door in 5 minutes. Mr. Latham, I say to the stunned general counsel. The vote, now. The motion, Latham says, his voice a hollow shell, is to temporarily suspend all fiduciary and executive authority of CFO Sloan Calder, pending a full forensic investigation, and to appoint Harlan Whitlow as interim proxy. Vote, I say. I, Vale, compliance, says, his voice shaking. I, Sharma PR, says, her voice small. I, Latham, legal, says, his voice dead. A few more eyes trickle in as other board members, woken by the alarm, see the data package Vale just pushed to their secure devices. The motion passes, Latham says. Harlan nods, satisfied. Rhea, send the press release. The clock hits 04:12, right on cue. There's a sound at the door, not a polite beep, a heavy metallic clack, the sound of a physical master key being turned in the override lock. The red light on the doorframe flashes amber, then green. The lockdown 0 is overridden. The heavy glass door slides open with a pneumatic hiss. Sloan Calder stands there. She's still in her black trench coat, damp from the rain. Her blonde bob is perfect, but her face is a mask of controlled fury. She sees me alone at the head of the massive, dark table. She doesn't see Harlan's face on the screen, which has minimized. She doesn't see the data. She just sees me. She smiles, a tight, cold, reptilian smile. You're getting brave. Nora, playing with the big girl toys. She steps into the room, her stiletto heels clicking sharply on the glass floor. It's late, honey, she says, walking toward me. Give me the card you found, and tell me what you think you're doing. The door slides shut behind her, locking her in with me. The glass door slides shut behind her with a heavy, final thump. The red, locked light on the console confirms it. We are sealed in, 47 stories up, in an opaque glass box, suspended over the city. Sloan stands there, her black trench coat beaded with rain, her perfect blonde hair unruffled. She's a marble statue of controlled fury, and she's staring at me. She takes a slow step, the click of her stiletto on the glass floor abnormally loud in the dead silence. "You've had a very long, very stressful day, Nora," she says, her voice a low, condescending purr, the same voice she uses to dismiss underperforming VPs. "You're confused. You're overtired. This display," she gestures to the dark screens, "is career suicide." She walks closer, stopping on the other side of the massive, polished black table. She holds out her hand, palm up, a gesture for a disobedient child. "Give me the MasterCard. Honey, we'll go downstairs, have a brandy, and we'll forget this little episode ever happened." I don't say anything. I just look at her. I see the woman who gripped my jaw, her thumb pressing into the bone. I see the woman who signed my father's death certificate and then, a year later, his company's. "Did you hear me?" Her voice sharpens, the purr gone. "I am the CFO of this company. This meeting is over." "No," I say. My voice is quiet, but it cuts through the silence. "It's just begun." I tap a single key on the console. Maximize, display 1. The main wall screen, dark a moment ago, explodes to life. Sloane freezes. Her hand, held out for the card, clenches into a fist. Her smile doesn't just fade, it shatters, like a reflection in dropping glass. Her face goes perfectly, ashenly still. She's looking at the data, the red-flagged NGO Partners LLC and Whitlow Trust relief files, the data integrity failure warning blazing in crimson. "What is this?" she whispers, her voice suddenly dry. "What did you do?" "I just ran the numbers. Sloane," I say. "It's my job. Remember? Analytics. I found an unoptimized expenditure." I tap another key. Play. Doc 14 to 2200 Rs, MP4. The grainy, high-angle video from the loading crane fills the room. Her black navigator, her own image in a trench coat, talking to the man in the cap. Her voice, sharp and hurried, fills the silent room, bouncing off the hard glass walls. "It's time for the allocation. Forget the cargo. Just make the transfer." I stop the video on a close-up of her face, taut with irritation. Sloane stares at her own image. For a split second, there is pure, animal panic in her eyes. Then, the mask slams back into place. She actually laughs. It's a short, sharp, contemptuous sound that scrapes against my nerves. "Humanitarian aid," she scoffs, turning to me, her composure absolute. "This is what you don't understand. Nora, the big picture. You're just a child playing with spreadsheets. That was an emergency disbursement for a refugee crisis in a sanctioned zone. Do you have any idea the strings I have to pull? The back channels I have to use to get aid where it's needed? You've stumbled into something you can't possibly comprehend." She's good. She's magnificent. She's spinning a $4.8 million fraud into a Nobel Peace Prize. "You've endangered a critical supply line," she says, her voice low and dangerous, advancing on the console, her eyes scanning for a way to shut it down. This is corporate treason." She's almost convincing. But then, a new voice fills the room, a voice she knows very well, heavy, old, and dead. "CFO Calder." Sloane stops breathing. She spins around, her eyes wide, looking for the source of the sound. She looks at the speakers in the ceiling. "It's David Latham, the General Counsel," his voice amplified by the room's speakers, crackling with a judicial rage that is clearly not directed at me. "This is General Counsel Latham, on a recorded emergency session of the board. Please explain the corporate structure of NGO Partners, LLC." Sloane's face goes white. "David? What is this? Nora, you? Answer the question. CFO Calder." Arthur Vale's voice, the head of compliance, cuts in immediately, sharp and shaking. "Explain your relationship with the listed director of that shell company, Kira Jensen, your executive assistant." Sloane is cornered, Her eyes dart between the speakers and me, a trapped wolf, looking for an escape route. "I will not be cross-examined by my own staff," she snarls. "This is a technical malfunction, a security breach. Nora, you are fired. This meeting is over." "No, it's not," I say, my voice quiet. I switch the display. The video vanishes. Now, the screen shows two documents side by side, their reflections warping on the mirrored surface of the table between us. On the left, an invoice from the Whitlow Trust Relief Fund for $1.2 million approved last year. On the right, a scanned letter from my grandfather's desk, circa 2015, a simple thank you note to an employee on their retirement. I run the third script from the USB. Execute. Sig verify. A digital analysis program overlays both documents. Red circles appear, zooming in on the signatures, the looping H and the strong, downward W. Signature 1. Whitlow Trust Relief. Invoice Signature 2. Harlan Whitlow. Letter. The analysis runs. A progress bar fills. Signature 2. Authentic, 99.8% probability. A second bar fills. Signature 1. Forgery, digital replication trace. "You've been signing his name. Sloan," I whisper, though the microphone picks it up and amplifies it. "All this time, you've been signing his name." "He's incapacitated," she shrieks, her voice finally breaking, losing its diamond polish, becoming raw and ugly. "I am the executor of the trust. I have his power of attorney. It's not forgery. It's management." "No, Sloan, it's theft." The new voice is not from the speakers. It's from the screen itself. The data vanishes. The main screen is now one massive, wall-sized video feed. Harlan Whitlow, in his command center truck, his silver-white hair and beard, his pale, burning, lucid eyes, he slowly, deliberately, reaches up and pulls down the hood of his dark thermal shirt, as if unmasking himself for her, the man she thought was a ghost, a broken vagrant. "I'm still alive, Sloan." Sloan doesn't just freeze. She physically recoils. She stumbles back half a step, her hand flying to her mouth. A small, strangled, animal sound escapes her. She stares at the face of the man she buried under rumors and legal fees. The ghost is on the line. But she is a predator. Shock lasts only a second. Then comes the attack. "Harlan," she breathes, and then her face twists, hardens into a mask of calculated, venomous pity. "Oh, Harlan, David, Arthur, are you seeing this? This proves my point. This is what I've been protecting the company from." She gestures wildly at the screen, at my grandfather. "Look at him. He's living in a truck. He's clearly unwell. He's paranoid. He's had a complete psychotic break. He's a dirty, insane vagrant." She turns her eyes on me, dripping with false sympathy. "Nora, you poor thing. Look what he's done to you. He's dragged you into his delusion. This isn't a boardroom meeting. This is a 911 call. He's not competent." It's a brilliant move. She's using his appearance, the very evidence of his 7-year fight, against him. She's painting me as the victim of a kidnapping. A new voice, crisp and sharp, Riya Sharma, head of public relations. "Actually, CFO called her. He is—" "What did you say?" Sloan snaps. "Mr. Whitlow," Riya says. Her voice is cold and clear as a chisel. "Submitted to a full, independent, board-certified neurological and psychiatric evaluation 2 weeks ago with Dr. Elias Thorne, chief of neurology at Grayford General, a doctor, I might add, with no financial ties to Stonebridge Logistics." A new file appears on the screen, a multi-page PDF stamped with the hospital's logo. Neurological Assessment, H. Whitlow. The results were uploaded to the board 5 minutes ago. Riya continues. Quote, "Subject presents with 0 cognitive impairment, advanced analytical reasoning, and falls entirely within the 99th percentile for executive function." The report concludes, "Mr. Whitlow is fully and exceptionally competent. The blood drains from Sloane's face. She knows. It's over. All the exits are sealed. The trap is sprung. The countdown clock in the corner of the screen reads 0:30. I stand up slowly from the console chair. I walk around the table until I'm only a few feet from her. I look her right in the eye. The faint, 2-week-old bruise high on my cheekbone, the one from her hand, feels like it's burning. The board vote is complete. Sloane, I say, and my voice is the only sound in the room. The incapacitation clause you and David Latham failed to trigger is void. Harlan Whitlow's 51% controlling stake is active and recognized by the General Counsel. I turn, walk back to the console, and tap the lockdown icon. The red light on the door turns green. I've just unlocked it. As the majority shareholder, his first act has been ratified by the board. CFO Sloane Calder, you are suspended, effective immediately. Your access is revoked. A full forensic audit is underway. Security is on its way up. I lean in, my hands flat on the cold, glass table. You are no longer an officer of this company. Sloane's face is a porcelain mask of shock, the civilized veneer fractured, revealing the raw, panicked animal underneath. She stares at me, at the locked door, at the impassive, wall-sized image of Harlan Whitlow, and she understands. This is not a negotiation. This is a containment. You, she hisses, her voice a low, venomous rasp. You did this. You, data entry girl. You think you can just fire me? She lunges, not at me, but at the console, her manicured hand slamming down on the end session button. Nothing happens. A small, red message flashes on the black glass. Master override active. She screams, a short, sharp sound of pure frustration, and swipes her own executive keycard. The reader flashes red. Access denied. You've been planning this, she snarls, whipping around to face me, her eyes reptilian. You and him, the two of you, in that truck. No, I say, and my voice is quiet. The microphone picks it up and amplifies it, making it sound unnaturally calm. He's been planning for 7 years. I've only been planning for 2 weeks. Sloane freezes. What? What did you say? Ever since you put your hand on me in that budget meeting, I say, my voice flat, cold, and procedural. Ever since you left a bruise on my face, I decided to run my own audit. You were right. Sloane, I'm a good analyst. I analyze everything. I turn back to the console. The countdown clock reads 1:45. You thought he was the only one watching? Run file. Lobby at SEC 4B. The main screen splits. Harlan's silent, watchful face on one side, a new video feed on the other. It's the security camera from the lobby of my apartment building, time-stamped 2 nights ago. We see Sloane, in a different suit, stepping inside. She speaks briefly to the night guard. She hands him a thick white business envelope. He nods, pockets it, and she leaves. Sloane lets out a sharp, incredulous laugh. That's your proof? I was protecting my stepdaughter. I paid the building security to keep that vagrant away from you. I was ensuring your safety. I thought so too, I say, until I looked closer. I hit the pause button. The video freezes on Sloane's hand, just as she's passing the envelope. Console, I command. Zoom and enhance. Sector 4, grid 9B. The image magnifies. 400x, blurring, and then sharpening, focusing with chilling, high-definition clarity on the white envelope. Sloane has handwritten the recipient's name, Night Security Desk. You have a habit. Sloane, I whisper, my voice filling the room. A nervous tick. I've seen it every time you sign a contract you know is questionable. You press too hard on the downstroke, and you always make a tiny parallel hash mark right next to the last letter, a little check mark of guilt. I point. On the screen, it's undeniable. Right next to the K in desk, a small, sharp, black hash mark, pressed deep into the paper. That's your "this is dirty" mark, I say. You weren't protecting me. You were paying hush money. You knew who he was. You've known for years. Her face is white. Circumstantial. Pathetic. I agree, I say. Just a tick. So let's look at your metadata. Run file. SUV GPS and metadata. A new window replaces the video feed, a map of Grayford, covered in a spiderweb of red data lines. Your navigator is a corporate asset, Sloan, which means it reports its GPS data to the corporate server. The data I, as a lead analyst, have full clearance to review for logistical expense auditing. You should have taken your personal car. The screen flashes, correlating two data streams, 2200, 102325, SUV 01, Calder, location, Stonebridge Dock, 14, a corresponding line appears, 2201, 102325, NGO Partners, LLC transfer, 3.1 M, approved, K. Jensen. Another flash, 2204, 101625, SUV 01, Calder, location, Stonebridge Dock, 14, 2205, 101625, Whitlow Trust Relief, transfer, 2.4 M, approved, K. Jensen. Every single fraudulent transfer from the trust for the last 6 months, I narrate. My voice is cold as the data. Every single allocation you approved corresponds to your SUV's GPS data, placing you at dock 14 within the same 5-minute window, the same dock from the surveillance video. You were physically present for every single ghost shipment you billed to the trust. The countdown clock reads 00:45. Sloan is hyperventilating, but silently, her chest heaving, her eyes darting from the screen to the locked door. Data? It's just data, she hisses. It's metadata. It's not proof. You can't prove I was at that dock. You're right, I say. The data is just the map. The GPS proves the car was there. It doesn't prove you were. I reach down into my Toomey bag, which sits on the console. I pull out a small, clear plastic evidence box, the kind we use in analytics for shipping damaged hard drives. This, I say, placing the box softly on the polished black table, proves you were. Sloan stares at it. Inside, nestled on a bed of white, anti-static foam, is a pen, a very expensive, black and gold Mont Blanc. Her pen. You dropped this, I say. 2 weeks ago, in Warehouse 4. You were furious that a pharmaceutical shipment was off schedule. You threw your alligator skin planner on the desk, and this fell. My pen, she says, her voice flat, confused. So what? My God. Nora, you're charging me with losing a pen? I didn't return it, I say, because I noticed something on the clip, something that didn't belong in Warehouse 4. I tap the console one last time. Run file. Spectroanalysis A3. A new file opens. A chemical breakdown. A spectroscopic signature. Warehouse 4 is a sterile, climate-controlled, HEPA-filtered cold storage facility. Sloan, it's cleaner than an operating room, but the microscopic particles I scraped from the gold nib and the clip of your pen. I point to the chemical signatures on the screen. Compound 1, NaCl, sodium chloride, crystalline. Compound 2, marine diatoms, trace. Compound 3, creosote, trace. Salt, I say, pushing the plastic box across the mirror-like table. It slides, stopping directly in front of her. Microscopic marine life, and creosote, the chemical used to treat saltwater pier pilings. This isn't warehouse dust. Sloan, this is dock dust. This is physical. Forensic evidence from Dock 14, the ghost dock, the one you swear you were never at. The countdown clock reads 00:15. Sloan looks at the pen in the box. She looks at the chemical signature on the screen. She looks at her own face in the reflection of the table. And the mask detonates. The mask of the CFO, the grieving widow, the strategic genius, the mentor. It evaporates, leaving only a creature of pure cornered rage. You! She screams, a raw primal sound that shatters the room's silence. She doesn't go for the console. She doesn't go for the door. She lunges across the table, her hands clawed, aiming for my face. "You bitch! You trapped me! You and that old bastard! You trapped me!" She never makes it. The glass doors at the end of the room slide open with a hydraulic hiss. 2 C-suite security officers, the big ones, the ones in the black suits, step inside. They don't look confused. They don't wait for orders. They move past me, grabbing Sloane in a single, practiced, non-negotiable movement, one on each arm, pinning her. She struggles, twisting violently in their grip. "Get your hands off me!" she shrieks, her voice echoing, manic. "Do you know who I am? I am the CFO. You're fired. All of you." "Yes, ma'am," one of the guards says, his voice flat, bored. "We do. Please come with us. The board has revoked your access." They begin to haul her backward, her heels scraping on the glass floor. She is still struggling, her perfect blonde hair finally undone, falling across her face. Her eyes, wide and insane with hate, are locked on me. "Nora!" she screams, as they pull her onto the sky bridge. "Nora, you will ruin this family. You will destroy this company." I stand by the console, unflinching. I watch her go. "No, Sloane," I say, my voice cold and final, answering her accusation. "I didn't trap you." I look her dead in the eye as the guards pull her out of sight. "I just opened the curtain." The glass doors slide shut. The silence that falls is absolute. It is the sound of a vacuum. It is the sound of a 7-year war ending. The countdown clock on the main screen hits 0003, 0002, 001, 002. The screen goes black. The session is closed. The audio line from the board is just dead air. No one is speaking. Then, a single, soft crackle from the room's main speaker. Harlan's voice. It's not the voice of the CEO. It's not the voice of the vagrant. It's just his, quiet, rough, and thick with an emotion I can't identify. "Well done, Nora." The connection clicks off. The lights in the catalyst room dim from clinical white back to a soft, warm glow. The electrochromic glass walls, opaque for the last 20 minutes, begin to clear, the 70% gray dissolving like mist, revealing the vast, glittering, indifferent skyline of Grayford. I stand alone in the glass box, my reflection staring back at me. The doors hiss open again. I flinch. But it's not security. It's David Latham, the general counsel, his face ashen, his suit rumpled, his eyes haunted. He just stares at me for a long moment, not as an analyst, but as something new, something he doesn't understand. "Ms. Whitlow," he says, his voice a dry rasp. He's in the lobby. He's asking for you." I rode the service elevator down from the 47th floor, but it felt like a descent from another atmosphere. The small, steel-walled box that had carried me up in a state of fractured panic was now carrying me down as something else. David Latham, the general counsel, was with me, but he stood on the opposite side of the car. His face ashen, his gaze fixed on the floor. He hadn't spoken a word since he'd fetched me from the catalyst room. The silence between us was heavy, charged with the ozone of the execution that had just taken place. The elevator didn't hiss. It just stopped. The doors slid open with a sound that felt too normal, too mundane for the night I'd had. I stepped out into the west side corridor, the one by the loading dock, the one I'd been herded to by a maintenance issue that felt like a lifetime ago. But the corridor wasn't empty. It led to the main atrium, and the atrium was no longer the dark, cavernous, silent marble hall of 11:03 p.m. It was brightly lit. The main lights, usually dimmed after 9 p.m., were on full, clinical white. Standing near the main security desk were Arthur Vale, head of compliance, and Rhea Sharma, head of PR. They both looked like they'd aged a year in the last 30 minutes. Arthur was in a wrinkled dress shirt and trousers, no tie, his hair sticking up. Rhea, ever the professional, was in a silk pajama top and a sharp black blazer she must have thrown on. Her face pale, but her eyes laser-focused. They both held phones in their hands, but they weren't looking at them. They were looking at me. As I walked toward them, my heels clicking on the black marble, I saw how they were looking at me. It wasn't the way you look at a junior analyst. It wasn't even the way you look at a founder's granddaughter. It was the way you look at a weapon. The way you look at the person who just, single-handedly, dismantled the entire power structure of a $10 billion corporation. Arthur Vale took an involuntary step forward. Ms. Whitlow, Nora, the board is confirmed. The vote is locked. Rhea Sharma just nodded, her eyes wide. The release is staged, she said, her voice a dry whisper. I'm waiting for the signal. A signal? From me? Or from the ghost on the line? Before I could answer, a different sound echoed from the other side of the lobby, a sharp, ugly sound. I am still the CFO. You cannot do this. It was Sloane. She wasn't being led out the grand front entrance. They were taking her out the same way I came in. The service exit, the one by the loading dock. The two large, black-suited security officers had her by the arms. She was still fighting. Her trench coat twisted, her blonde hair a wreck. She looked wild, her face contorted into a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. "You'll all be fired by morning," she shrieked, her voice bouncing off the hard marble, ugly and shrill. "Latham, David, you tell them who I am." David Latham just stood, frozen, watching her, his face a mask of his own ruined career. As the guards pulled her toward the steel service door, her stiletto heel, the one I'd seen step out of the Navigator, caught on the smooth, polished stone floor. She didn't fall. She just slipped, a jarring, awkward, ungraceful skid of leather on marble. It made a sound, a short, dry, scraping a dry scrape. It was the coldest sound I had ever heard. It was the sound of a safe's combination failing, the sound of a vault door, heavy and final, scraping shut on its hinges. Then she was gone. The heavy steel door thudded closed, cutting off her last scream. Silence descended again, but it was a different silence, a clean one. Rhea Sharma let out a long, slow breath. Her eyes closed. "Okay," she whispered, more to herself than to us. "Okay." She looked at me, her finger hovering over the send button on her phone. "Now?" "Wait," I said. Arthur and Rhea looked at me, confused. "Wait for what?" Arthur asked, his voice shaking. "The market opens in—" "Just wait," I said. And as if summoned by my word, the main revolving doors, the ones Sloane wasn't permitted to use, began to turn. A figure stepped inside. The lobby's main security guards, the ones at the front desk, who had watched me walk past for years, who had watched him shiver outside for years, suddenly snapped to attention. They didn't just stand. They stood ramrod straight, their hands clasped behind their backs. One of them, a heavy-set man I'd seen chase Harlan away from the doors more than once, visibly swallowed, and then bowed his head, a short, sharp, definitive gesture of respect. It was my grandfather. He was no longer the man in the rain, stinking of cheap plastic and wet grime. He was clean. His silver-white hair and beard were still long, but they looked like they had been washed, combed. He wasn't wearing his rags. He was wearing a simple, dark gray cashmere sweater and dark trousers. They were worn, but of impeccable quality. They were the clothes of a man who values function, not flash. He looked like a retired professor or a ship captain. He looked, I realized, exactly like himself. He wasn't leaning on his gnarled stick. He was just Harlan Whitlow, and the authority coming off him was a physical presence in the room. He owned the air. He walked past the guards, who didn't dare meet his eye. He walked past David Latham, who looked like he'd seen a true ghost. He walked past Arthur and Rhea, who were staring, their mouths open. He walked right up to me, standing in the middle of the massive, empty atrium, his pale blue eyes, my eyes, found mine. They were clear, bright, and impossibly tired, but they were alive. He didn't hug me. He didn't smile. He just looked at me, a long, appraising look. Then, he slowly, deliberately, began to work the heavy gold signet ring off his finger. The ring I'd seen caked in grime an hour ago. It was clean now, the HWW shining dully under the bright lobby lights. He held it out, not to me, but placed it on the low, glass lobby table between us. It made a soft, heavy click on the glass. "Keep this," he said, his voice the same rough gravel from the street, but without the desperation, just authority. "You'll need it for the signing tomorrow morning. The board will need to see it." I looked at the ring, the symbol of his power, his identity, the thing he had kept hidden for 7 years. He was just giving it to me. I looked at him, at the board members, Vale and Latham, watching us, waiting to see who their new master was. I felt the echo of the girl who shivered at 11:03 p.m., the girl who took orders from a woman who bruised her. That girl was gone. I pushed the ring back across the glass. It slid, stopping in front of him. "We sign tonight." Harlan's eyes widened, just a fraction, a flicker of something. Surprise? Pride? David Latham took a choked step forward. "Ms. Whitlow, Nora, we can't. The documents, the resolutions, they need to be drafted, notarized. We don't even have a position for you." "You have a vacancy," I said, not taking my eyes off my grandfather. "A large one, and you have a printer and a general counsel." I glanced at Latham. "You're still the general counsel. David, aren't you? You can draft a 1-page interim appointment." Latham stared at me. He was broken. He was the one who had enabled Sloan, who had failed to get the third signature, who had been caught. He was desperate. "Yes," he said, his voice a rasp. "Yes, I can. What title?" I thought for a moment. The data, the cleanup, the lies I was forced to approve. "Acting Chief Compliance Officer," I said. Arthur Vale's head snapped up. The head of compliance, reporting to the Chief Compliance Officer. Me? Harlan Whitlow watched this, a small, tiny, almost imperceptible smile playing at the corners of his mouth. It took Latham, Vale, and Sharma, huddled over a laptop at the security desk. 12 minutes. 12 minutes to draft a single-page document, a field promotion in the middle of a corporate war zone. Latham brought it over, his hand shaking, holding it out with a pen. "Interim appointment," he stammered. "Acting Chief Compliance Officer, with full C-suite authority, pending full board ratification at 9 a.m. I took the pen. I looked at the paper. I reached out and took the HW ring from the table. It was heavy, and still warm from his body. I slid it onto my right ring finger. It was too big. But I made a fist, holding it in place. My hand was not shaking. I remembered 11:03 p.m. under the overhang, my hand trembling so badly I could barely take the USB. Now, my hand was rock steady. I signed my name, Nora Whitlow. The ink was black and final. I looked at Rhea. She had been watching the whole thing. Her eyes glittering. I just nodded. Once. Rhea looked at her phone. She took a deep breath, and she pressed send. A moment later, my own phone vibrated in my pocket, and Arthur's, and David's, the press release, Stonebridge Logistics, shareholder protection clause activated, independent forensic investigation. Stonebridge Logistics, shareholder protection clause activated, independent forensic investigation. It was done. I looked up. Outside the massive glass walls of the atrium, the rain had stopped. The storm had broken, washed the city clean. The streetlights and the headlights of the few passing cars reflected on the wet, dark pavement, sharp and clear, like a freshly wiped slate. The air in the lobby felt different, clean. I looked at my grandfather, He was watching me, his gaze soft. He gestured at the revolving doors, at the city outside, at the building he had built. "I never left the family, Nora," he said, his voice so low only I could hear it. "I never left any of this." He met my eyes. "I was just waiting for the right person to open the door." I walked out of the service elevator and into the main atrium. David Latham, Arthur Vale, and Rhea Sharma were still there, a small, displaced cluster of high-level executives standing awkwardly in the middle of the massive, empty lobby. Lit by the harsh, oversized midnight lights, they looked like the survivors of a shipwreck, washed ashore on a sterile marble island. They were waiting. For what? They didn't seem to know. They just knew the entire chain of command had been decapitated and reforged in the span of 30 minutes. They all looked at me as I approached, their expressions a mixture of awe, terror, and a new, calculated respect. I was no longer Nora the analyst. I was the acting chief compliance officer. I was the holder of the ring. My grandfather was standing by the main revolving doors, his back to them, looking out at the city he had built. He turned as I approached. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. The signature on the interim document was dry. The press release was live. The board had been summoned for 9 a.m. The wheels were in motion, grinding with the full, irresistible force of a 51% controlling stake. Harlan Whitlow looked past me, at the three executives. He gave a single, short, sharp nod. It was not a greeting, it was a dismissal. Latham, Vale, and Sharma understood. They scattered, moving quickly toward the elevators, desperate to get home, to process the coup they had just been forced to ratify, to figure out what side they were on. They already knew. They were on ours. My grandfather looked at me. He gestured with his chin toward the doors. We walked, side by side. The massive glass revolving doors hissed as they sensed our approach, gliding open. We stepped out onto the pavement. The first thing that hit me was the air. The storm was over. The wind was gone. The air was cold, sharp, and clean. The humid, suffocating smell of wet garbage and diesel fumes had been scoured from the street, replaced by the faint, metallic tang of the city's power grid and the clean, mineral scent of rain-washed concrete. The oppressive, cheap plastic smell of the overhang was gone. We stopped, right at the edge of the pavement, under the massive concrete overhang, the exact spot, the place where he had slept, where he had shivered, where he had handed me the USB drive. It was just a patch of empty, dark pavement now, drying in the cold night air. I stopped. He stopped with me. I reached into the pocket of my wool coat. I didn't pull out the pen. I pulled out my old, blue, standard-issue analyst ID card and its lanyard, the one I'd been wearing when I came in tonight, the one he'd used to identify my rank. I took the black and gold Mont Blanc pen from my other pocket, the pen I'd used to sign my new appointment, the pen I'd used to trap Sloan. I turned the ID card over. On the blank white plastic back, I wrote 2 words. No one invisible. I unclipped the lanyard, looped it around a small, exposed conduit pipe on the pillar he used to lean against, and clipped the ID card back on. It hung there, a small, blue and white plaque, turning slowly in the faint breeze, a tiny monument. My grandfather watched me. He didn't speak. When I was finished, he lifted his right hand. He tapped the thick, reinforced glass of the building's facade. He tapped it 3 times, his ring finger striking the glass. Tap, tap, tap. The sound was sharp, solid. I lifted my own hand, the heavy 8W signet ring feeling cold and foreign on my finger. I tapped the glass. Right next to his hand. Tap, tap, tap. The new code. Acknowledged. My phone vibrated in my coat pocket. I pulled it out. It was a news alert from the wire service Rhea had used. Stonebridge Logistics, SBL, announces activation of Class A shareholder protection clause, citing significant fiduciary irregularities. CFO Sloan Calder suspended. Effective immediately. Forensic audit to begin. After-hours trading indicates a slight rise in share price as market digests news of decisive action. Confidence, Returning. I looked up from the phone, at the man who had been a ghost, the man I had nodded to for 2 years, my heart numb with my own compromised, comfortable life. "I didn't recognize you," I whispered. It was a confession. The shame of it felt cold and heavy. "All this time, I looked right at you. I didn't see you." Harlan Whitlow stared at the small, spinning ID card. His pale blue eyes seemed to be looking at something far away, at 7 years of rain and cold and watching. "You didn't have to see me, Nora," he said, his voice a low, rough gravel. "You just had to see a man, someone else, someone who needed dry gloves." He turned his gaze to me, his eyes sharp and clear. And that was enough. That was everything. I looked down at the ring on my hand. It was too big, loose on my finger. I turned it, the heavy gold catching the white, artificial light from the lobby. The engraved HW was deep, the lines sharp. It wasn't an inheritance. It wasn't a prize. It was a commitment. It was the key to the machine, and the weight of the responsibility that came with it. Behind us, the massive, silent, automatic glass doors of the Stonebridge headquarters slid shut with a soft, final hiss inside the lobby, on the main digital directory board. The electronic text that listed the building's meetings flashed, updating the 9 p.m. Budget review was gone. The 10 p.m. executive session was gone. There was only one line left, in simple, white text, before the board went dark for the night. Catalyst. Session closed. The screen of the reader's heart closed on that sentence. The revenge was complete. Thank you for listening to this story. Please comment below and let us know where you're listening from. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and give it an extra boost by hitting the hype button to help this story be heard by more people.